And we are live. Alright, y'all. I'm gonna wait for some people to hop in here. But, yeah, I'm gonna try and keep this quick, concise, as I usually like it. So, peace. And I'm gonna be giving y'all some tips, and then y'all can take it for what it is. Thank y'all for tapping in. Thank y'all for joining me for this educational moment. So y'all, basically what I want to talk about with y'all today is how to interact with your sucker punch. If you have one, if you don't have one, this one will still be pretty good for you if you're just somebody who likes interacting with your crystals and programming things, right? So when I first started utilizing the sucker punch, what I would do, and just about any crystal actually, what I would do essentially is I would take a medicine journey with it. What I mean by this is basically I would have basically psychedelic mushrooms, and I would take about 2 to 3 grams, and I would dedicate the entirety of the trip to connecting with the crystal, right? When I did this, after the trip, post-trip, I had much more of a full understanding of what the power was with the crystal, essentially, right? And then when I added that to my regimen for utilizing the sucker punches, I realized that the level of interaction would actually go up. So when I was tripping with the sucker punch, right? If anybody's ever tripped with a sucker punch, you kind of understand basically that this thing in real time you can feel while you're tripping is basically a quantum interdimensional timeline shifter, and it's an interactive one at that. So basically what would happen for me is during very visionary parts of the experience, right? The sucker punch would be the focal point of the room, and then that focal point was based off of my thoughts and intentions. It was able to give me a visual portal essentially for what timelines I was seeing, and able to create with essentially my thoughts, my emotions at the time, right? And it really gives you basically a real-time it's the great reveal. Basically, it's the great reveal of basically what you're doing with this thing all the time during your sober consciousness, your 3D experience, right? So essentially, when I was tripping with these and building relationship with them, and they're seeing me and I'm seeing them, right? Because crystals are fully interactable or organic intelligence. I was then able to utilize them on a much more fundamental level. Exactly, it was quantum leaping nonstop at all times during these psychedelic ventures with the sucker punch, because this is a quantum interdimensional, like literally manifestation, manipulation device of all sorts. So yeah, I literally, after an eighth of mushrooms and interacting with it, the thing with the sucker punch, right, is when you get it, it's just like meeting a person, right? So you don't know it, you don't know it doesn't know you, and so you're both feeling each other out the entire time that you're interacting with it for about 3 to 4 weeks. It's trying to figure out what you need, what your intentions are, what your goals are, how your aura feels, and how much better it could be depending on the intentions and thoughts that you put into it, right? All those goals that you wish to foresee, is trying to figure out how to work with you based off of your own frequency signature. So what I usually tell people is, you spend 3 to 4 weeks with your programs, your intentions. If you want to program it so that you have more individuals and situations that bring you to community that's very in line with your own morals, values, and how you wish to see the world and want to interact with the world, then you will spend 3 weeks basically stating those intentions 2 to 3 times a day with the Succor Punch. Your first 10-gram trip with the Succor Punch, you are being transported into some crazy realms. Yes, exactly. And the beautiful thing about when you're tripping with the Succor Punch, essentially, when you're in these altered states of consciousness, is that it's shielding you. So it's shielding you from outside influence, from entities that don't want to see you prosper, right? Because when we take these substances and put them inside of our bodies, basically these crystalline psychedelic substances, right? They have a frequency signature that aligns with our own. And then that frequency signature actually ends up, and this is my theory, is that we end up having a mass amount of ORMUS, or monoatomic minerals, come into our bodies all at one time. Hence the reason why we feel like we have such a different level of perception of the world. And that goes in tandem with people's experiences when they take monoatomic gold, or ORMUS, and they have basically they feel like they're tripping on LSD, right? So because we have those interactions happening on such a rapid level, and we have this newfound perception, right, from these monoatomic minerals, we're able to alter our reality, feel like we have superpowers, or we do actually have temporary superpowers, because we were able to do so many things that we aren't able to do when we're just sober, right? Have our regular amount of monoatomic minerals inside of our body. And so the way I see it too, right, is ORMUS, this quantum interdimensional, these minerals, right, that make up our soul and are fed to our brains, gathered in our brains very rapidly, is that they have, just like crystals, they have a memory. They're able to transport basically that information between 2 dimensions, 2 timelines, and 2 thoughts, right? And so the way I see it is this right is an ORMUS accumulator. You yourself, when you take a psychedelic substance, are a mass ORMUS accumulator. So therefore, when you interact with the Succor Punch, and this has ORMUS in it, you have ORMUS in you, and you're making basically these telepathic connections, your ORMUS inside of your brain is creating a quantum portal or tunnel for information to go into the Succor Punch. And that quantum portal is fully established even after you come out of the trip. So that's why it helps so much, I feel like, with interaction. So what's your preference, ORMUS or colloidal gold? So I've never taken colloidal gold. I've taken ORMUS for 1 or 2 weeks, and then after that I stopped. But essentially, if you're going to do, basically what I do is transmutation. I do the fermentation transmutation, basically utilizing fermented foods or probiotics and feeding them ORMUS, or as you say, you use colloidal gold. And those things like yeast can actually transmute those elements into those monoatomic minerals. And at that point, they're fully digestible. To me, ORMUS by itself and colloidal gold are not. I mean, colloidal gold, yes, it's ingestible, but is it the same level as monoatomic minerals? I don't believe so. And then same thing with ORMUS, essentially. ORMUS, right, is, I don't believe, fully digestible unless it's been transmuted, alchemized by something outside of ourselves. It's very similar to the idea of we can't really eat rock, sand, or gravel, but the microbiome, right, of the earth, the macrobiome, giant macrobiome, basically the probiotics of the earth, the yeast, the fungus, can all transmute all of those things into things that are digestible for us, as well as digestible for the plants. So basically using yeast as starter. Yeah, exactly. So you can make your monoatomic sourdough. I gave some instructions for that on one of my rails. Um, and you could also make monoatomic probiotics. There's this company called Terraganics, and you can look up. They have this gold probiotic blend, and when you look on the back of the label, basically what it says is that on the surface of this liquid probiotic are white flakes or white powder. What they don't tell you though, and basically I'm not even entirely sure if they know, is that it's actually monoatomic minerals that are accumulating on the surface of the probiotic. Um, you have traveled over the border with a Succor Punch. I'm traveling to Mexico. I want to be able to take the tech. Yeah, they don't bother you if you have a Succor Punch. They won't say anything about this whole setup. If they do, really, all you have to say is that it's a pulse electromagnetic field therapy device. Your doctor recommended that you have it with you at all times, and it basically is assessing your health and well-being, but it's nothing more than that. And just with that, some people don't question it right when you go to the airport, and some people do question it. But that's the explanation that you give them, and then they back off. Because if they were to impede on your basically your treatment by your doctor, then they would be doing something that could result in a lawsuit. Right. But yeah, that's what I say is, yeah, utilize this for 3 weeks, affirm your programs to it. And when you're in altered states of consciousness, let this be your focal point to interact with it. But this is basically your quantum organic intelligence assistant. So with a quantum organic intelligence assistant, you are telling it at all times what you want it to do, and it is manipulating the quantum multidimensional area around you in order to bring you situations, people, and certain outcomes. And the beautiful thing about it is with the 15 hertz frequency, you're always going to have outcomes that the earth wants for you. You're always going to have outcomes that are beneficial to the planet. You're never going to have a negative outcome. You will have neutral outcomes, and you will have positive outcomes, but you'll never have a negative outcome. The only way you could perceive it as negative, right, in the moment, but the thing that may come out of it could actually benefit your character. So that is the only, I would say, it's not exactly an exception, but that's the only catch. Spell the brand name, or can I find it in your post? If you go to my linktree and you scroll all the way down to multidimensional ORMUS probiotic, that's what the link's labeled as. It takes you to the Terraganics website, and then when you go to Terraganics, all you have to do is scroll down a little bit, and you'll see basically there's a soil inoculant, I think it's what it's called. And then if you search up even more, there'll be there's Pro EM1, which has aloe vera and a few other herbs in it that you can take as a probiotic. The EM1 is for specifically your soil, your plants, things of that nature. And then they have I think it's called EM1 Gold. And that EM1 Gold actually has gold in it that's actually being transmuted into its monoatomic form. So, gonna do a little experiment in Mexico. The sky is heavily polluted where I'm going, and I'm gonna try to clean the air. Yeah, the more, I would say like the less 5G, EMF radiation, and all things of that nature that you have, the easier it's going to be. There's a few things that you could do. I've outlined them in some of my rails. But basically, if you can find a body of water, that's the biggest thing that I've seen, is if you can find a body of water, basically what you want to do is either walk around it, exercise around it, skate around it. But because the Succor Punch is pulsing an electromagnetic field of frequency, right? Just like when you have a frequency on a vibratory plate filled with a bunch of sand, right? It all forms into geometrical patterns. That's essentially what you're doing, is when you're circling around the body of water, what you're doing is you're making all the molecules of water into a geometrical shape, and then that geometrical shape or frequency spreads out into the rest of the soil and the ground. And then because of that, then after that, you can lead all that frequency and geometry to wherever else you're walking to, or basically expending energy. Have you heard of ORMUS, man? He used milk of magnesia and baking soda. I haven't tried this method yet, but many say a lot of ORMUS was produced, especially the Dead Sea salt. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that tech. It's the milk of magnesia tech. There's multiple techs essentially to get monoatomic elements, but yeah, there's so many different ways. But that one definitely is the easiest, and I feel like the most accessible as well. Can I use Slim's audio on my Succor Punch? Yeah, you can definitely use Slim's audio on the Succor Punch. Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, you can use really any audio so long as you know that it's not tainted with dissonant frequencies. I typically prefer a frequency generator, and I'll go over that in another live about what basically all the advantages of having a frequency generator. The thing with the Succor Punch, at least, with the most basic design with the 15 hertz zapper, is that you only have one frequency being pulsed, and nothing in nature only utilizes one frequency. So because of that, in some areas, some people have gotten basically no effect, no interaction after a period of time of utilizing it. And this is because your environment has gotten used to the frequency to a point that it's almost like it's built a tolerance to it. And so because it's built a tolerance to it, because you have it on all the time on one frequency, basically what you're going to see is that the frequency isn't as effective. Of course, you can always magnify this by utilizing your own body's frequencies, which are all variable and are all resonant with the earth. What Succor Punch is good enough to clear 2 rooms off EMF signals? The mini punch. I have a 5G cell antenna close by and noticed EMF is at about 100. I don't know what measurement that is. But yeah, essentially if you have a bedroom, if you have a house, a neighborhood, or just a small community, the mini punch is fine. If you live in the city though, and at the end of the day, the mini punch and like a bigger Succor Punch, they're going to cover you regardless. They're going to cover your immediate area regardless. But if you want range, essentially, if you want to affect like miles and miles, like all the way down there, all the way down there, like you want some range, then the mini punch is still going to do if you're in a rural area or even in the suburbs. But the city areas are not going to be covered as well. And that's just because of the amount of basically dissonant frequencies that the scalar waves have to travel through in order to alter the environment. So you'd want one of the larger Succor Punches in order to be able to do that. So, yeah, that's everything for right now, y'all. But if any of y'all have any questions about the Succor Punch, or really anything that comes to mind when it comes to, quantum, interdimensional, biological physics, and, I'm here. And at the end of the day, I'm just sharing from my own experiences. Because basically what I've seen is, when you interact with the Succor Punch, I mean, I had an amazing trip where I was able to sew up Bliss's hand after he got a cut. And ever since then, basically my strength with that particular Succor Punch, which is a smoky Lemurian laser quartz, was that much stronger for healing sessions. Because I had that experience, right, that very much solidified my belief, because a lot of these things work on faith and belief. If you don't believe and don't have faith, then it will show in your experience, because at the end of the day, you're the observer effect, right? You're basically the one that's dictating how reality, that photon, how matter is interacting with you. Yeah, I'll save this live for y'all, and yeah, y'all can spread it, send it to any homies that also have a sucker punch. And at the end of the day, yeah, I'll be going a little bit more in depth about how the frequency generators, right? How the frequency generators basically alter the game, because, right, if you have the same frequency on at all times, the environment's going to get used to it, and then it's not going to interact. It's not going to be as effective for everything that you want it to do. But if you have a constant change up of frequencies that the environment can't really predict, then you're always going to have basically, you know, the most effective, greatest beneficial experience with the sucker punch, right? And for those of you who go through psychic warfare or any type of gang stalking, right, this still works. But if they come back, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to run different types of frequency waves on top of changing the frequency itself. So, do you include an invoice on your shipments? If I have it shipped to a courier in the US to be forwarded internationally, they usually require an invoice. So I don't usually include an invoice with the shipments, but I can make an invoice utilizing PayPal and then just print it out. So yeah, I can accommodate you in that way if that's what you need. But yeah, y'all. But yeah, I'm gonna keep this short because, you know, I be drowning y'all out with a ton of information. So yeah, I'll be back to inform y'all about how to utilize the frequency generators to your benefit. But peace, y'all. Enjoy your day. Enjoy that sun, and I'll talk to y'all later. Much love.